How enforced positivity of job seekers keeps a broken market profitable. Labor market economics for the layperson. Hi, my name is Sarah Trumbull. I am the founder and CEO of the Job Applicant Perspective, the first anonymous user reviews for job ads across the U.S. This is a level of go-to-market awareness as well as public service for all the gaslighting out there. I'm driving out a paradigm restoration as I see it, which is pretty big. And as such, it requires a lot of go-to-market educational moments, This comes from my Substack, which goes on a couple times a week. And I make this in video format to kind of reach more people where they're at, because people come at stuff in different directions. Some people like to read, some people like to listen, some people like to watch, all that. So I am going to start from the beginning and we will go from there. As always, my blog posts or my vlogs are an invitation to conversation. Yeah, they're an invitation to conversation. I would recommend you use your discernment and try to falsify the data to see if you can rebut it. I always take it as a compliment when someone needs to flatten what I'm saying as opposed to rebut it. That means that you were struggling to, Whenever your argument is bad, someone pokes holes in your argument. Whenever your argument is pretty good, someone starts trying to poke holes in the speaker. So anyway, let's start from the beginning. Toxic positivity as revenue. Why is LinkedIn full of relentless cheerfulness, even from people who are clearly struggling? Because the online job market is one of the only marketplaces where being honest about bad products doesn't hurt the seller, it hurts the buyer. In most marketplaces, if you buy a bad product, leave a bad review, and warn others, the seller loses money and the platform loses trust. But in hiring, things are flipped. Platforms don't lose revenue when job seekers waste time on bad postings. They lose revenue if job seekers, American citizens, warn each other and avoid those postings. When the unemployed's unpaid time and energy is careful to be protected, that's the problem. That's why the toxic positivity of job seeking isn't just cultural, it's structural. Who this is for. Job seekers have been warned that posting anything negative will make you unemployable and feel forced to mask exhaustion with cheer. Employers who interpret silence and positivity as satisfaction, missing the hidden frustration and wasted labor behind the scenes. Researchers and policymakers who are trying to understand why the labor market isn't improving even as platforms grow and why user complaints are so muted. Economists and sociologists who need to see enforced positivity not as a cultural quirk, but as a structural feature of the market. Platform designers and investors who profit from churn and compliance, but rarely model the cost of suppressed transparency. The structural incentive. In most marketplaces, a bad product equals bad reviews equals lost revenue. This is the good way. This is the way a market should be. And it's exactly why hiring started breaking when it went online, because that dynamic ended as soon as hiring went online. Recruiting companies in the job market, bad posting equals more clicks, equals more reshare, equals more boosted ad, equals more revenue. Yeah, that definitely was the problem. In the newspaper era, they lost money from misleading the U.S. citizenry, the labor force. Online, they profit from doing that, which means the unpaid time and labor of Americans is profitable. It's unethical and bad economic practices. Recruiting companies, ATS vendors, and job boards don't make money when job seekers get hired quickly. They make money when job seekers stay in the funnel, like I was saying. Every resurface, every sponsor, every premium nudge is monetized. These scraping machines are so unethical. Every time an industry filter from an ATS keeps Americans out of work a little longer, the profit stream increases. The only real threat? Transparency. If job seekers could warn one another at scale about broken processes, ghost jobs, or exploitive employers, the churn would stop, which is why platforms work so hard to normalize silence. Toxic positivity as a market norm. LinkedIn's good vibes only culture is not an accident. It makes employers feel comfortable, powerful, and admired. Every smiling post about grateful to be applying and excited to keep trying reassures hiring managers that the system is fine. I said it in the last post and I'll say it again. The labor market went online the way employers saw themselves, but not the way the market actually functioned. Went in line with employers' vision, not market functionality, the way the newspaper did. As in, newspaper lost money when they misled the labor force. Online is just profitable. The market operates like an identity market, an identity and comfort. It sells it back to employers. It's not selling them functionality when it profits from misleading the labor force. It's just selling them identity. Leaning into the norm of don't criticize a hiring process, it makes you unemployable, is perfect for platforms. It keeps job seekers compliant even after hundreds of unanswered applications. It prevents collective consumer awareness of bad products. It relieves job boards and ATS companies of pressure to deliver a better user experience. Silence and positivity become enforcement tools. The toxic positivity of LinkedIn has economic precedent. Impression management theory research on emotional labor from Hochschild 1983 shows how service workers must manage their feelings to create specific emotional states in customers. Smiling through stress, suppressing frustration, self-presentation. Goffman talked about it in 1959, described how people perform different identities depending on their audience and the stakes of the evaluation. Job seeking combines both. You must perform emotional labor, enthusiasm, gratitude, and resilience while being constantly evaluated, but without compensation and at your own expense. Yet these frameworks have never been systemically applied to understand how online platforms monetize this performance or how suppressing honest feedback creates market failure. Honestly, if you're in economics, follow with me. I would be happy to work with you on this score. One of the things I talk about for my business model at the job applicant perspective, the user reviews for hiring, is that the challenge isn't the business concept of user reviews for job posting, like for a post. It's not the technology. It's the behavioral conditioning around this concept that I'm describing here, this enforced toxic positivity, which is just driven by these marketing companies. Okay. Expressing honest feedback creates, like I said, job seeking combines both. These have never been applied, or it's suppressing honest feedback creates market failure. Human cost. The result is emotional distortion layered on top of economic dysfunction. Job seekers not only face systemic inefficiency, they also carry the burden of masking stress, anger, or exhaustion to appear hireable. The market is hierarchy. So it's lack of adaptability in an authority costume. It's economics. It's not economics. It's hierarchy in an authority costume. Speaking honestly about poor experiences gets labeled as negative rather than truthful. And that enforced cheerfulness doesn't just protect feelings, it protects profits. Genuinely, the sacred shrine of economics of like hiring process used to be for employers, not for intermediaries. Employment's been reviewed. Job seekers are always reviewed. Vendors aren't usually exempt from the same standards that their stakeholders face. They have captured that cultural dynamic when they shouldn't have. But it protects profits, so it makes sense. Check the research. Notice what's missing. Most labor market research focuses on employer behavior, wage dynamics, and hiring outcomes. Almost none of it examines the job seeker experience of the hiring process itself, and especially not how platforms shape what job seekers are allowed to say. The gap isn't accidental. It's the same structural blindness this article describes. What we do know, when exhaustion and positivity become a revenue strategy, online job platforms don't profit when hiring works. They profit when job seekers keep trying. These are publicly available fiscal year reports. It's not hard. It's straight. They admit to it. They're saying it out loud. Jolts hires openings says it out loud. Watch the hires to openings drop while the profits increase. It is what it is. The more that Americans stay out of work, the more profitable they become for the talent industry, the longer they can stay out of work. The goal isn't to solve the hiring process. It's to give a plausible enough reason that they haven't solved it. That makes it seem like the unemployed's fault. This creates a perverse incentive. Job seeker exhaustion paired with public optimism becomes a profitable asset. Platforms monetize 3 specific behaviors. Number 1, high application volume, data clicks, engagement, and sponsor visibility. Repeated attempts after rejection of churn, subscriptions, and pipeline inflation. Positivity masking exhaustion. Protects platform image, protects employer brand, and suppresses accountability. LinkedIn, Indeed, and many ATS vendors publicly attribute revenue growth to increased engagement, strong applicant volume, and sponsored job visibility, not to successful hires. They're not hiding it. That's the thing. All you have to do is be willing to see it, to be able to see it. That's it. Cui bono, who benefits? It's pretty straightforward. The platforms are benefiting, the industry benefits, the stakeholders lose. It's stage 4 economic cancer, this hiring industry. A successful hire removes the user, a profit driver. An exhausted but optimistic, potentially homeless, unemployed American keeps profits rising. And because job seekers have been culturally trained and algorithmically reinforced to present their struggle in a tone of motivated resilience, their visible performance signals health, not harm. This makes them ideal participants in the market loop. In hiring, suppressed criticism is not just emotional, it is economic. Emotional infrastructure is economic infrastructure to me. Like, these are the economics it is a physical representation of the emotional engagement of these groups of people. Platforms do not lose revenue when job seekers waste time on bad postings or ghost jobs. They lose revenue when job seekers warn each other and stop applying. Let's say this with another terminology here. Platforms don't lose revenue when American people desperately searching to look for a place to live and pay their bills. They don't lose time when those types of Americans waste time on bad postings or ghost jobs. They lose revenue when the American citizens warn each other and stop applying. That's why enforced positivity isn't just cultural, it protects the business model. Market dysfunction, the collapse of hires per posting. The online labor market isn't just inefficient, it's measurably deteriorating. Measurably. It's not rocket science. It's like right there. Analysis by Revelio Labs in collaboration with Bloomberg found that the U.S. labor market experienced a sharp decline in hires per postings beginning in 2020 and accelerating through 2022. The ratio dropped from 0.75 hires per posting in 2018 to below 0.5 in 2023, according to Revelio Labs. Put simply, most job postings no longer result in hires. It's all the academic research talks about how awful online hiring has been for the well-being of the American citizenry. Whether you're looking at the lost generation, whether you're looking at hidden workers, whether you're looking at skills gaps, whether you're looking at ghost jobs, it's been desperately bad for the American population and the citizenry. It's just bad. Like, the collapse occurred, and it's getting worse, and it's not hidden. While the profit streams increase, the systems work. You just have to see who they benefit, and that tells you what's happening. The collapse occurred even as overall hiring remained relatively stable. While job openings exceeded hires by only 1.6 million in January 2021, the gap exploded to 5.6 million in March 2022, according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, indicating that platforms were generating massive volumes of postings without proportional increases in actual employment. The human cost is staggering. Workday platform data from 2023 shows job seekers submitted 133 million applications, a 30% increase from prior year, while employers extended only 12 million offers, representing a 9% decrease, according to Workday's blog. More applications chasing fewer real opportunities creates exactly the kind of information asymmetry that defines a failing market. It's Akerloft's market, just with cybernetic, if you know Nash non-converging, think of a Nash non-converging principle in game theory. It's mathematically incoherent. The design of this market is, it will never solve. It will collapse. That's what math describes. 1 and 1 is still 2 and all that. So this is happening. It's just a matter of what we're going to do about it. What we need: studies on LinkedIn's content algorithms and what gets suppressed, research on employer use of social media to screen candidates, analysis of how culture fit is used to penalize honesty, data on job seeker self-censorship and its economic effects. These aren't just research gaps, they're predictable blind spots. The same norms that prevent job seekers from speaking publicly also direct researchers to study employer behavior rather than job seeker experiences. It's the category error. We've trained ourselves so hard to just not even think about the job seekers when we're thinking about hiring that we don't think about them at all. We can't even imagine it. Both platforms and researchers treat job seekers as objects to be analyzed, not as market participants whose testimony matters. They're not seen as users, they're seen as data points. That's why the market collapses. They're not treating it like a two-sided market. That's the thing. The absence of research in general. I do like rhetoric and philosophy and logic. So the absence of evidence is in general not the absence of evidence of absence necessarily, but it's also not that. Like sometimes when the flower didn't grow, it is because you didn't water it, you know? Like sometimes it is. And the absence of research on enforced positivity in hiring isn't proof it doesn't exist. It's, to some degree though, evidence of how effectively the mechanism works. I said this too. I hate these arguments sometimes, but sometimes it actually is true. We cannot even imagine a world where candidates could be safely honest enough to share their experiences authentically without repercussion. Or we can't imagine why a professional candidate would want to. And the very act of admitting to ourselves that we couldn't even conceive of evaluating a vendor for the quality of goods and services they were hired to provide to the people they were hired to provide them to, even in academia, should alert us to a dangerous market model at play. When this sits at the base of our economy, this is, economic collapse in motion. Like this is what it will do. There's no other outcome. There's no systems theory, cybernetics theory, information theory, or Richer and Cherol. When you actually apply it like it's a two-sided market that it is, they are describing the same thing. Game theory too. Check out the job applicant perspective was built to challenge the silence and flip the incentives. Transparency as protection. Anonymous reviews of job ads and hiring processes allow job seekers to warn each other without risking employability. It also allows enough people so that you're getting the pattern as opposed to just one-off thoughts. Feedback is accountability. Crowdsourced hiring experiences surface patterns of ghost jobs, exploitive funnels, and broken ATS systems. Revenue tied to results. TJAP is designed so platform health depends on actual hires and honest feedback, not on monetizing endless churn. It gives you information like a Google Maps scenario. So say that you decide to go on this route anyways, and you get ghosted, kind of like a traffic jam. You don't think you're in this traffic jam because you're personally an awful person, just because everybody's in the traffic jam. We're all here together. That's what it is, By restoring the right to speak honestly, TJAP undermines the structural demand for toxic positivity and creates a hiring ecosystem where truth is rewarded, not punished. Opacity only ever benefits the current people in power, which is just the creation of feudalism. So all I say is the creation of feudalism, the hiring market like this. It's not meritocracy, it's feudalism, it's aristocracy. I said it before, don't talk about your hiring process. It makes you unemployable. It really sounds anymore like something Harvey Weinstein's people would have said to a young blonde actress, And what is Harvey Weinstein but an aristocrat in his industry, And when we created this dynamic across all industries, we just created 1,000 Harvey Weinsteins around the country, That kind of vibe. It's the same. It's not about how good you are. It's about how much I like you. And that is not meritocracy. It just isn't. This is not economics. It's hierarchy in an economics costume. The takeaway. Enforced positivity is not politeness. It's the glue holding together a market that profits from job seekers' silence. Avoidance is not professionalism. It is not. Accountability is. It just is. Real reform means flipping the incentives, building feedback loops where honesty isn't punished but rewarded, where platforms lose money if they waste your time, and where transparency, not toxic positivity, becomes the norm. We aren't trying to evaluate employment. That's already been evaluated for many years now. We're trying to evaluate hiring intermediaries. Hiring is just Uber. It's just tech Uber, except you have to use it without any user reviews, which is why it doesn't work. If we stop thinking of it like some great noble thing and we just remind ourselves as tech Uber, it makes it really clear what needs to happen to start the repair. I don't claim my platform is going to be the magic solution to all things everywhere. I claim that it creates the economic incentives to start repairing the market, start repairing the foundations of our economy and civic and democratic stability in the process. Because the silenced, unpaid labor of hundreds of millions of people across the globe isn't good for anybody. It's not good for anybody. So yeah, again, this thing, the job applicant perspective, the first anonymous user reviews for job ads. Please like, follow, share, and repost if you're into it. And otherwise, have a good one. Wishing all well.